It was one of those nights where the city felt heavier than usual. I'd just clocked out from my double shift at the diner, grease still clinging to my clothes, my feet throbbing in my worn-out sneakers. The 11:30 p.m. bus had already left, and the next one wouldn't come for another hour. I remember tugging my jacket tighter around me, the October wind biting through the thin fabric, when I saw the car slow down beside me. A beat-up silver sedan, the kind that blends into traffic without a second glance. The window rolled down, and the driver, a man with hollow cheekbones and eyes that didn't quite focus right, just nodded toward the passenger seat. No words. Normally, I'd never get in a stranger's car, but exhaustion and the cold made me stupid. I hesitated, then opened the door. The second I buckled in, the smell hit me. Stale cigarettes and something metallic, like old coins. The man didn't speak, just stared straight ahead as he pulled back onto the road. I forced a laugh, trying to break the silence. Long night, huh? Nothing. Not even a glance. My phone was dead, so I watched the streetlights flicker past, counting them to calm myself. That's when I noticed his hands, too clean, gripping the wheel like he was holding back from something. Then came the first wrong turn. "Hey, the subway's the other way," I said, too loud. His head tilted toward me, slow, like a rusted machine, and then he smiled. Not with his mouth, with his eyes. The car sped up and my stomach dropped. I kept waiting for him to say anything. A joke, an excuse, even a threat. But the only sound was the engine humming like it was straining. I pretended to check my dead phone again, just to avoid his reflection in the window. That's when I caught him staring. Not at the road, but at my legs. His pupils were huge, black pools swallowing the streetlight glow. I tugged my skirt down, my throat tight. "Seriously, man, let me out at the next gas station." Nothing. He just licked his lips. Slow, deliberate, like I was a meal he'd ordered. The neighborhoods blurred into shapes I didn't recognize. Warehouses with busted windows, alleys choked with trash. My pulse hammered so loud I could hear it. I gripped the door handle, but the child lock clicked under his control. He'd planned this. That's when I saw the knife on the floor mat, half hidden under a fast food bag. Not a kitchen knife, a hunting blade, curved at the tip. My breath came in shallow bursts. I needed to scream, but fear glued. My mouth shut. Instead, I did the only thing left. I begged, "Please, I won't tell anyone. Just stop the car." For the first time, he reacted. A dry chuckle, like I'd said something adorable. The car swerved onto a dirt road, kicking up gravel that pinged against the undercarriage like gunshots. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely unbuckle my seatbelt. Not that it would help with the child locks engaged. The trees outside grew thicker, swallowing what little moonlight there was. I kept waiting for a street sign, a house, anything. But there was just this endless tunnel of shadows. The man finally spoke, but it wasn't words, just a low, wet sound in the back of his throat, like he was savoring the moment. I realized then, he enjoyed this. The fear, the silence, the control. My vision blurred with tears, but I blinked them away. Panic wouldn't save me. Just as I was about to slam my elbow into his temple and risk crashing the car, the headlights flashed over something up ahead. A flicker of red and blue. A cop car, parked crooked near a rusted gate. The sight was so surreal I almost didn't trust it. My driver stiffened, his knuckles going white on the wheel. For 3 awful seconds he seemed to debate flooring it. Then, with a hissed curse, he jerked the car to a stop. I didn't wait. I clawed at the window switch, but it was dead, so I did the only thing left. I threw my whole weight against the door, screaming like hell itself was chasing me. The impact rattled my bones, but the door burst open. Cold air hit my face as I tumbled onto the road, gravel biting into my palms. I didn't look back. I just ran, my shoes slipping on loose stones, my lungs burning. Behind me, tires screeched. He was peeling away, but I didn't care. That cop car was my only lifeline. I waved my arms, sobbing, until the officer inside finally turned his head. His flashlight blinded me, but I'd never been happier to see light. He had a knife, I gasped, pointing at the taillights, vanishing into the dark. The cop's radio crackled to life, but all I could think was, I'd been inches from becoming a story people tell to scare each other. They never found him. The car was stolen, the plates fake. The cops said I was lucky, like that was supposed to comfort me. For months, I jumped at every silver sedan, at every quiet laugh in a crowd. But the worst part? The thing that still wakes me up at 3 a.m.? It's the way he smiled when I begged. Not cruel, not angry, just hungry. Like, he knew he'd find another girl who'd take the ride. The cop's flashlight beam cut through the dark like a lifeline, but his face twisted with skepticism as I babbled about the knife, the child locks, the way the man licked his lips. He made me repeat it twice, his pen hovering over his notepad, like he was deciding whether to humor me. "Silver sedan, you said?" he muttered, already half turned toward his radio. I wanted to scream, "He's getting away," but my voice cracked into silence. Behind us, the woods swallowed the sound of the engine, gone. The cop sighed, like I'd ruined his coffee break. At the station, they gave me a blanket that smelled like bleach and asked the same questions in different ways. "Why'd you get in the car?" I was tired. "Did he touch you?" Not in the way they meant. The worst was the sketch artist. I described the hollow cheeks, the 2 clean hands, but when she showed me the composite, it looked generic, like every stranger danger poster ever made. The detective leaned in. "You're sure he didn't say a word?" I wanted to laugh. His silence was the loudest part. Weeks later, I found a forum online where women shared stories like mine. One post stopped me cold. "Silent driver, silver sedan, hunting knife." My fingers froze over the keyboard. The details were identical, even the licking his lips thing. But the timestamp was from 2 years earlier. The comments were worse. "He's still out there. Cops did nothing." I slammed my laptop shut, but not fast enough to unsee the last reply. "He likes it when you beg." I moved cities, changed my number, but some nights, I still wake up sweating. Not from the nightmare of being trapped in that car, but from the worse one where I don't see the cop car, where the road just keeps going. And sometimes, when I'm alone at a bus stop, I swear I hear gravel crunching under slow tires. I never look, because the truth is, monsters don't vanish. They just wait for you to forget how they smell.
It was one of those nights where everything felt just a little off. The kind where you ignore the creeping unease because, hey, you're young, you're invincible, and the alcohol is still buzzing warmly in your veins. I'd been out with friends at some dive bar near the edge of town, the kind with sticky floors and dim lighting that made everyone look like a washed-out version of themselves. By the time I realized I'd missed the last bus home, it was past 2 a.m., and my phone was dead. I stood under a flickering street lamp weighing my options when a car slowed beside me. The window rolled down and a man with a voice like gravel and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes asked, "Need a ride?" I hesitated. Any sane person would. But the cold was seeping into my bones and the guy seemed normal enough. Mid-40s maybe, with a worn leather jacket and a faint smell of cigarettes clinging to him. His car was unremarkable, a gray sedan with a cracked dashboard and an air freshener shaped like a pine tree dangling from the rear view. "I'm heading south," he said, like he already knew that's where I lived. I don't know why I said yes. Maybe it was the booze, maybe it was the exhaustion, but I slid into the passenger seat, and that's when the first prickle of dread crawled up my spine. The door locks clicked shut a second too deliberately, and the car smelled faintly of something metallic beneath the pine. At first, the drive was quiet, just the hum of the engine and the occasional hiss of tires on wet pavement. Then he started talking. Small talk at first. "Long night?" he asked, eyes flicking toward me like he was studying my reaction. I nodded, forcing a laugh, but his gaze lingered too long, like he was waiting for me to slip up. Then, out of nowhere, "You live alone, don't you?" My stomach dropped. I hadn't told him that. I mumbled something vague, but he just smiled, tapping his fingers on the wheel in a rhythm that felt deliberate, like a countdown. "I've seen you around," he added casually, as if that explained everything. The streetlights became fewer, the roads narrower. We were veering away from the usual route home, taking turns I didn't recognize. My pulse thudded in my ears as I pretended to check my phone, still dead, just to avoid looking at him. "You got plans tomorrow?" he asked, and this time his voice had an edge to it. I shook my head, gripping the seatbelt like it could save me. "Good," he said, and the way he said it made my skin crawl. Then, like, he was commenting on the weather. "You shouldn't walk home so late. Not safe. I've been watching." The admission hung in the air, thick and suffocating. My breath hitched. This wasn't just a ride anymore. The car slowed as we passed a deserted gas station, its neon sign buzzing like a dying insect. I kept my eyes locked on the window, counting the seconds between streetlights, praying for a landmark I knew. But everything was wrong. Too dark, too quiet. The man's breathing had changed, sharp and deliberate, like he was holding back excitement. "You ever been out by the old quarry?" he asked, fingers tightening on the wheel. My mouth went dry. The quarry was miles from anywhere, a place kids dared each other to go at night. I shook my head, but he just chuckled. "We're almost there." The words slithered out, and for the first time I noticed the knife clipped to the sun visor. My hands trembled as I pretended to adjust my seat, fingers brushing the door handle. Locked. Of course. The man hummed along to the staticky radio like this was just another drive. Then, without warning, he swerved into an empty parking lot, a cracked concrete slab behind a shuttered hardware store. Gravel crunched under the tires as the car rolled to a stop. "Wait here," he said, but his voice was different now, guttural. He reached for the glove compartment, and I caught a glimpse of rope coiled inside. That's when the adrenaline hit. I yanked at the door again, uselessly, as he turned to me with a smile that didn't belong on a human face. "Don't make this hard." I don't remember deciding to move. My body just reacted. As he leaned toward the glove compartment, I swung my elbow hard into his temple. The impact sent a shock of pain up my arm, but he grunted, stunned for half a second. That was all I needed. I grabbed the knife from the visor and slashed at his hand as he reached for me. The blade caught his wrist, and he howled, recoiling. Blood splattered the dashboard, metallic and thick, in the air. I didn't wait to see how bad it was. With a desperate scream, I brought my foot up and kicked the door with everything I had. Once, twice. On the third hit, the lock gave way with a sickening crack. Cold night air hit my face as I tumbled out onto the gravel, knees scraping raw. I didn't look back, just ran. Behind me, the car door flew open, and his footsteps pounded after me. "You little shit," he roared, voice ragged with fury. I vaulted over a rusted chain-link fence, my jacket tearing on the metal, and sprinted toward the distant glow of a convenience store sign. My lungs burned and my vision blurred at the edges, but I could hear him gaining ground. Then, a miracle. A truck rumbled out of a side street, headlights blinding. I waved my arms, screaming, and the driver slammed on the brakes. As I scrambled into the passenger seat, I finally turned back. The man from the car had frozen at the edge of the road, his face twisted in something between rage and hunger. Then, like a nightmare fading, he melted into the shadows. The truck driver, a middle-aged guy with a beard and tired eyes, didn't ask questions, just stepped on the gas as I gasped for breath. "You good, kid?" he muttered, shooting glances at the rear view. I nodded, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off, and now the fear was sinking in, cold and heavy. I kept expecting to see those headlights behind us, that gray sedan creeping up like a predator. But the road stayed. Empty. Too empty. The truck's radio crackled with static, and for a second I swore I heard a voice whisper my name. The driver didn't react, just kept driving, like he hadn't heard a thing. He dropped me off near my apartment, and I sprinted the last block, keys already in hand. My front door felt flimsy suddenly, the lock too easy to pick. Inside, I deadbolted it, shoved a chair under the knob, and collapsed against the wall. Safe. But then, a sound. A slow, deliberate knock. Once. Twice. I stopped breathing. The peephole showed nothing but darkness. Then from the other side, a chuckle. "You forgot your phone," the voice said. My blood turned to ice. I hadn't told him where I lived, hadn't even mentioned a phone. The knocking came again, harder this time. I backed away, and that's when I saw it. On my kitchen table, screen glowing. A phone I'd never seen before. One missed call. The contact name. "Your driver." I grabbed a kitchen knife and yanked open the door, ready to fight. But the hallway was empty. Just the flickering fluorescent light and the smell of wet concrete. No footsteps, no shadow, nothing. I slammed the door shut, heart hammering, and picked up the phone. The screen showed a single text. "Next time I won't ask." The battery died instantly after, leaving me in silence. I threw it in the trash, poured bleach over it, then shoved the whole thing down the building's incinerator. But that night, as I lay in bed, I heard it again. The faint vibration of a phone, ringing, somewhere in the walls, somewhere close. I moved out the next week, never told the cops. What would I even say? The guy's face is burned into my mind though, the way his smile stretched too wide when he said, "Wait here." Sometimes when I'm walking alone at night, I'll see a gray sedan idling at a stoplight. The windows are always tinted. The driver never looks over. But the locks, they click every damn time.
My name's Jess, and this happened last February after a 14-hour shift at St. Mary's ER. I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open, but the snow had started falling harder, and I just wanted to get home. My GPS had been glitching all week, sometimes rerouting me down abandoned service roads to save 2 minutes. But that night, it went full-on possessed. 1 second I was on the highway. The next, the screen flickered and dumped me onto a narrow, unmarked road swallowed by pine trees. No streetlights, no reflectors, just my high beams cutting through swirling snow. That's when I realized my phone had no signal, and my gas tank was hovering just above empty. I'd driven maybe 5 minutes when I saw taillights ahead. A beat-up Chevy Malibu parked crookedly on the shoulder, driver's door open. A man stood beside it, stomping his boots like he'd just gotten out. Mid-40s, graying beard, wearing a red flannel that looked too thin for the weather. When my headlights hit him, he turned and waved, almost relieved. My gut said keep driving, but the snow was coming down sideways now, and my tires were already slipping. I rolled down my window an inch. "You okay?" I asked. He leaned in too close. "Battery's dead," he said, breath fogging the air. "You know how to jump a car?" I should have said no, but the snow was turning to ice on my windshield, and his voice sounded normal, friendly even. I pulled over, leaving my engine running. As I popped my hood, I noticed his gloves. Oddly, pristine, like they'd never touched engine grease. He didn't even try to pretend to hook up cables, just stood there, staring at my hands while I fumbled with the jumper clamps. "You're a nurse, huh?" he said, nodding at my scrubs. I froze. No hospital badge was visible. Before I could answer, he added, "My sister's a nurse, at St. Mary's." A coincidence, unless he'd followed me. The trees creaked in the wind. "Actually," I lied, "I'm just filling in tonight." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Funny, I could have sworn I saw you there last week." My throat went dry. I dropped the jumper cables and took a step back. "You know what? I'll call a tow for you," I said, reaching for my dead phone. He moved faster, blocking my path to the driver's door. "No need," he said. "My place is just up the road. You could warm up while I call." The way he said just up the road, like it was a punchline. That's when I noticed the back seat of his car, a tarp, folded neatly, and beneath it, something lumpy. I forced a laugh. "You're sweet, but my fiancé's waiting." His smile vanished. "Fiancé?" The word came out sharp, like I'd insulted him. I edged toward my car, gripping my keys between my fingers. "Yeah, he's a cop. Actually, that's him calling now." I bluffed, raising my black screen to my ear. The man's gaze flicked to my phone, then back to me. For 3 heartbeats, neither of us moved. Then he lunged, not at me, but at my open hood. He yanked something loose, and my engine died with a shudder. "Oops," he said softly. "Now you're really stuck." I bolted, not toward the road, into the trees. Snow soaked through my sneakers as I crashed through branches, his footsteps crunching behind me. "Jess," he called, sing-song. He knew my name. I tripped over a root, pain shooting up my knee, but I scrambled up and ran harder. Ahead, a flicker of light. A distant farmhouse? I didn't care. I just aimed for it, sobbing now. Behind me, his voice faded, replaced by the sound of an engine. Starting. He wasn't chasing me on foot anymore. The farmhouse was an abandoned barn, its roof caved in. No lights, just moonlight reflecting off broken glass. I ducked inside, pressing myself against a moldy wall. My phone, still dead, but I mashed the power button like a prayer. The screen lit up. 1% battery. A single bar of service flickered. I dialed 911, whispering my location to the dispatcher. Then I heard tires on gravel. Headlights swept across the barn's walls, illuminating something. Scratched into the wood beside me, "Help him finds us." The car idled outside. No doors opened, no footsteps, just the engine's growl and the creak of the barn's timbers. My phone died. The headlights cut off. Silence. Then, a knock. 3 precise raps on the barn door. "Jess?" the man called, cheerful. "I've got jumper cables now." My legs gave out. I slid down the wall, hand over my mouth to silence my breathing. Something brushed my ankle, a length of frayed rope, half buried in hay. Not just me. A distant siren. The man cursed. The barn door rattled as he shoved it, but the rusted hinges held. "Next time," he hissed. Tires spun in the snow, then silence. I didn't move until red and blue lights flooded the barn. The cops found me curled around a rusted shovel, my fingers bleeding from gripping it so hard. Back at the station, they showed me photos. 6 women had vanished near that stretch of road in 10 years. None found. No suspects. "You're lucky," the detective said. I almost laughed. Lucky? The man had known my name, known my workplace. The cops chalked it up to a stolen ID badge, but I quit the hospital the next week. A month later, I found a Polaroid tucked in my mailbox. No postmark. Just me, in my scrubs, walking to my car at St. Mary's. On the back, in block letters, "You left your hood up. I moved across the country, changed my last name. But sometimes, when my GPS glitches, I swear I see a flash of red flannel in the rearview mirror, and I wonder, how many times did I actually make it home that night?"